Big Trucker B family, how y'all doing? It's your boy, Big Trucker B, and today we're here with Mr. Charles Erby, Charles the SAP, the one and only Mr. Erby. And if you guys are looking for an awesome SAP counselor at an affordable price, check him out at focus7llc.us. And you guys give him a call. And Charles, what number can they call?
404-620-1944.
1944. And
Yeah,
then you guys can also check them out on YouTube. Guys, if you're gonna support me, you gotta support Mr. Irby as well on his channel. Go check out Charles the Sap on his YouTube as well. And let's get into the video. So, Mr. Irby, thank you for coming on this video with me
yeah.
today. Thank you for joining me on this video. Because that first part sounded way wrong. Thank you for joining me today in this video, and
Yeah,
we made a video like this a couple years ago, but I,
yeah,
I I wanted to get back, just kind of get a refresher of what's going on, right? And just talk about what you do. Has anything
yeah.
changed with you, and so on and so forth. Maybe we'll get into a couple other things and what's to come in the future. So, uh, without further ado, everybody, here's Mr. Irby.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back with Brad. You know, the dream team is back. We're about to put some information out there in the universe. Okay. Everybody has been responding to our first video, and that is great. And it's not so much because of we're Hollywood, it's because of the information. For once, somebody on YouTube or the other platforms that present us are getting information that's needed. Knowledge is power. And a lot of SAP drivers have been suffering, haven't they, Brad? They've been suffering. They
It,
they don't
it's
know what to do.
and it's still going on today. And honestly, I think, Charles, I get hundreds of messages a day, if not more, from TikTok and lots of comments and people. They're hurt.
They're hurting. They're hurting. You know, it's almost as if I keep getting phone calls from drivers saying they thought their career was over until they seen our video, you know, and they were surprised. And then they're getting a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation. So we're going to straighten a lot of this out. We want to get together on a continuous basis too, because it looks like we need to in order to continue to update drivers and straighten out the misconceptions that's happening out there. Your life is not
100%.
over.
100%. And I can attest to that, guys. Here's what makes me different from everybody out there that I know of, and I'm starting to know a little bit, notice a little bit of a trend. Charles is now other SAP drivers are making YouTube channels and coming to the
Yeah,
industry, but
yeah,
people were ashamed. I was ashamed. I I was scared. I went out of work for a year, like no trucking, because I was one of those people that thought my career was over. I thought I was done. And I got referred to Mr. Irby, and he had me back up. And if I would have known this after everything that happened to me back in the day, I would have had to wait a whole year. But I got referred to Mr. Irby, and he got me done in actually 3 days, I believe. But it could take up to four. Depends on what you guys want to do out there. Now, Mr.
yeah,
Irby, if you want to explain your process when they do get a hold of you and how things work to get them
yeah.
back on the road as well.
Well, the process is very simple. They get referred to me. I hear the ring. I answer the phone. That's one of the main things that a SAP should do. Always answer the phone or call somebody back. I get a lot of complaints that they just don't hear from their SAP after so many months went by. And they call me and they don't have the case with me. They have it with their SAP. I cannot intervene on another SAP's case. So let's get that out the way. I call people back. So I answer the phone and I find out that they got a violation. It is best to get right down and drill right down into the problem. What was the substance that they took or was found? Or was it a refusal? What was the case surrounding the refusal? Was it a lab controversy or what was going on? Okay. Is there a problem with you and that MRO? Also, the type of drug is important. Be honest. Now, I tell you up front, if I hear a certain drug, I'm going to ask you to explain what happened. And I tell you up front, if it don't hold water, your story, I'm going to ask you to call another SAP. I'm not trying to be mean. That's the best way to help somebody is honesty from the jump. So they tell me the story, and if it holds water and it sounds right, I'll take the case. Otherwise, most people thinking that they're going to go ahead and hear this, Brad. Hey, certain people, not the majority, certain people think they could buy a return to duty letter.
Mm-mm.
You get that?
Return to duty letter, buying one. What?
That's what they.
So
Yeah.
so people are coming. So people are becoming wannabe SAP counselors just for that money. Try so they.
Yes.
Mm.
So it's important to help that driver with recovery. Recovery is more important than a career because that encompasses everything in your life, your money, your children, your marriage, your social life, everything, your spiritual life, your physical life. You want to get recovery into the picture first and foremost. Then everything else gets added onto it. Not just a job trying to get a quick return to duty letter from a SAP, pay for one so you can continue to drive, so you can continue to use drugs. A decision has to be made. And I confront that in the beginning. Most of my cases, I take 90%, maybe 95 of them. People are honest.
So ironic that you brought up the buying the return to duty.
Yeah.
Um, I I've talked about this in some videos of mine, and I'm in a lot of trucking, SAP trucking groups, SAP trucking company groups. I'm always on the hunt and prowl for trucking jobs so I can help other SAP drivers find a job, right?
Yes.
Now, a lot of times I see people saying, all right, I finished with my step five return to duty. How can I go through the step six follow ups? And the only one true way to go through the follow ups is by having a job with a company that would do the follow ups for you. You cannot buy your follow ups with a consortium or another SAP provider or SAP counselor and all that. I'm not going to name any names, but Mr. Irby, tell me
Yeah.
why they cannot do that.
Ooh, Mama Mia. What happened with that? People are getting caught up in a fraudulent situation. The FMCSA hate this because it is fraud. Here's the ruling with the FMCSA. This is what the federal regulation says. You have to do a minimum of 6 follow-ups in a minimum of 12 months. You cannot get all your follow-ups done in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. That's fraud. And when the clearinghouse catches up with you, I've had 2 drivers had to return back to me from a consortium. They got chewed out pretty good by investigators and got stripped of their SAP process certification, and they had to start from the beginning. And they came to me and they told me they were pretty upset because they paid a lot of money to the consortium, but they had to start all over because their SAP process was not recognized by the government.
And that's the thing.
Once again,
Oh,
yes, that's
money.
that's pretty bad. Money.
Oh,
You
sorry.
cannot you cannot go through a follow-up process in less than 12 months. The follow-up process is in 6 months increments. 12 months, maybe you could jump to 18, then 2 years, 24, etc., all the way up to 5 years. If the SAP feels that you have a serious addiction, but they're going to let you be in the SAP process, they may hit you with 5 years of follow-ups, and they got the right to do so. Now, you don't want to go to anybody that's going to sell you follow-ups for less than 12 months. You have to do at least a minimum of 6 follow-ups. And everybody got another misconception out here in this SAP orbit.
Tell me about it.
They think everybody gets 6 follow-ups. That's just the minimum. And once again, I'm hearing from inspectors and investigators that they're getting sick of this. And they're getting on SAPs and they're chasing down SAPs about giving everybody the minimum. You got to change this up because everybody don't deserve or merit the minimum. And they're getting pretty upset. I don't use, and I will disclose this to everybody here on this broadcast. I don't use 6. I use a different number because I don't want to be caught up and get the alarm set on me. So it's a minimum of 6 follow-ups in a minimum of 12 months. So after so many follow-ups and after 12 months, then you could do step 6. The employer or consortium can do step 6, which basically closes up the SAP process.
I can't imagine, paying $250 per follow up only to have to restart the whole ordeal again, especially if they're told, all right, well, you got to do 8 follow ups. Because they might tell them 6, but who knows how if they don't know that they can't pay for follow ups, who knows that the consortium can't just say, oh no, you have to pay for 12 follow ups, and then they're paying $250, each follow up, and I can't imagine the scams that are going on with people that are uneducated, with people that don't know that
Yeah.
you can't do this. If you're gonna have your follow-ups, do it through a trucking company. And here's one other thing, guys. I lucked out with the company I'm at. My company paid for my follow-ups. They don't
Yes.
have to.
That's
No
right. They don't
company
have to.
has to pay for your follow-ups. So if you
Right.
go to a company and you're upset that they're making you pay for your drug test for your follow-ups, that's honestly, that's that's part of being a SAP driver. That's one of the
Yeah.
downfalls. We have to pay for our own. You might get lucky, like I did, and have a company that'll pay for them for you, but they're not required to.
They're not required to. And that's one of the things that everybody needs to know. You can negotiate with your employer concerning the payment, even the return to duty, which the employer doesn't, is nowhere in the federal regulations that the employer is mandated to pay for it, along with mandated to pay for the follow-ups. But you can negotiate with them, but you really want to, if you can, go ahead and pay for them, in my opinion, so you could keep the job. It's a small price to pay in order to keep a career.
Now, now, I got a story for you, Mr. Irby. I don't know if I don't know if I've talked to you about this on our phone calls or before, but I would like to share it with the rest of my audience, and I want to get your opinion about this story and get what you feel about this.
Okay.
Um, as you know, guys, I've been in the SAP program for almost 2 years, and it's no fault of Mr. Irby's at all. It's actually the fault of my past employers. So I was doing my follow-ups with my last company. Everything was going to good. I don't know how many follow-ups I had left, but I did. I think I did like three, 2 or 3. I forgot at that time. I ended up leaving that company because, well,
Hmm.
that company shut down. They closed. They shut the doors. Um, I switched over to a different company, Mr. Irby, and they said they couldn't get a hold of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
company to get verification that I took those 3 follow-ups, and I had to restart my
Yep.
entire follow-up process again. Do you think there should be a better do you think there should be more data in the clearinghouse for even if I do a follow-up in another company? Like they shouldn't have to call another like my past company to get my follow-ups. Like, do you think there should be something better than this system than calling the last company?
Wow. Good question. There was talk back in 2020, the clearinghouse was going to, in about 2022, would have the database activated and updated where even follow-ups could be tracked from employer to employer. That hasn't, 2022 is obviously 2 years ago.
Yeah, that hasn't been done yet.
And we haven't heard anything. It must be pretty difficult for them to do it. However, for drivers, I suggest you keep track of all the follow-ups, write down the dates, and if you keep receipts or even the results, keep the results. When you move to a different job, now you can display and prove to this new employer how many follow-ups were done, and the new employer will do the remaining amount. You really don't want to start from ground zero.
And paper that you get when you take a drug test that doesn't show results, it just shows that you take the drug test. I suggest
Right,
everybody keep that paper because it does say on there you did a follow-up.
right.
Okay, and like Charles Erby said, receipt, and that's kind of what it is. But
Yes.
but what I'm trying to get at, Charles, I know I'm kind of rambling, is all those drug tests I took at my last company, they will show up on my clearinghouse. However, the data that the new company gets doesn't see that those drug tests, those
No.
follow-ups. That I don't know why they can't make it transferable. It should be a
Yeah.
super simple thing. Sorry about
Yes, it should be,
that.
and that's what they were talking about implementing back in 2020, and it hasn't came to fruition yet. And the deal is the drug tests you take, the follow-ups are not supposed to be downloaded or sent to the clearinghouse. Not at all. The employer is expected to just keep them in their drawer. And when they get to the last follow up, they will enter in the date of that last one into employer entry number 6. So it's not like the driver takes a follow up and the employer downloads it into the or upload it up to the clearinghouse. No, they just keep them. The clearinghouse don't want them. They just want the date of the very last follow up to close things out. So,
I,
and they expect the employer to keep
I'm
track
ac-
of them.
I'm actually glad you talked about that or explained it. I was wondering how that works. Like when I do my follow ups, so say I do finish all my follow ups here, my company takes those follow ups and do they upload it to the clearinghouse or do they just like you said keep it in a file and then after?
They're supposed to keep it in the file. They're not only if the clearinghouse asks for it, only the last follow up. So if you got prescribed 6, the minimum, that 6th follow up is the main one that they in clearinghouse is concerned with, and all they want to know is what the date is of that last follow up. They don't
Okay.
want you to send in the results just so they can see negative, negative. They don't care anything about that. They just want the date of that last follow up. Now
All
that
right.
leaves a big hole, a gaping,
Uh,
donut hole of, but that's none of our business. That's the government.
it, I believe that there could be easier ways for this clearinghouse to
Yeah,
work. Like
yeah.
it's they're making it a lot more complicated than it has to be, but not it's above our pay grade, I guess, you know.
Well, I guess it's a case of until we skin our knees up real good, then they will consider band-aids. But they won't buy any band-aids until they see some flesh on the pavement. So
Yeah.
until things get bad, then they make a move on something. But there's also something else, Brad. I need to tell you. Um, when drivers go to a new job, the federal regulations says that the new employer contacts the old employer, and the old employer is obligated to pass on the return to duty letter with testing schedule and all the other SAP documents. But that is a problem in the industry. The old employer don't
Answer
well,
the phone.
right? They don't give a rat's because he's not employed with me no more. I'm done with him,
Yeah,
and they
that
hang up the phone. I ain't playing this game with you.
I
Or they just yeah.
that no like my company tried to call them several times. They tried to email like nothing.
And this holds a lot of drivers back from advancing in their career with another company because now they're in limbo. They're in the ether of of the universe. They got nowhere to go. They can't get this job and they can't go back to the old one because the old employer will not cooperate with the federal regulations. And this happens all the time. Well, I tried with me, Focus 7, we tried to solve this problem. The only other person federally regulated to hand out SAP letters and return to duty letters and etc. is me, the SAP. We're the only one that has authority to do it outside of an employer.
But
So I'll do it for them.
you can't do the follow-ups though. That's the one thing.
No, no, no. Only employers or
Mhm.
consortiums can do follow up.
Just
And if it's a consortium, it's because you're an owner or operator and they took care of your case from the beginning. You just can't be a company driver, but oh, I'm gonna just got my return to duty step 5 done. Now let me go to a consortium and let them handle all my follow-ups, but be a company driver. No, no, no. So it has to be a case of you go to a consortium, you just you're an owner operator and you there for that. If you're a company driver, the company would do step 6 or step 5 follow-ups. Go ahead.
what's the all right, so we've talked about this in the past, the process. Say that, Joe fails a drug test with his trucking company. He's out. He's got to do the SAP program. Charles, what's the process from step 1 to 5 to get to that follow-up situation, and what do you require?
Well, the steps are step 1 is the driver will contact the SAP, and Boom, that's step one. Step two, the SAP accept the driver. Now the driver got steps one and two done on the clearinghouse, and he's officially in the SAP return to duty process. So now the clock is ticking on his. He's good. He gets through with the initial assessment. That's step three. The SAP clicks step three. Boom, is updated and done. Then he gets me with me my final SAP drug screen, and I wrap things up and send him his return to duty letter. That's step four. Now that's the process. One, two, three, and four are the SAP process. Initially, now the SAP disappears. He goes like a ghost, goes away. Everything now is between the clearinghouse, the driver, and the employer. And the SAP is really not obligated to even pick up their phone again, but they should. These are human beings and they need service after sales, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that about you. You've definitely, you're really good about keeping contact, and I bet you it gets pretty hard because there's a lot of people out
Yeah,
there,
it's
you know.
you get burned out, but you got to do it because this is a deal with, I know I'm tripping right now, but if you help a man get his good paying job back because of a just a hiccup, he's not really an addict, it's just a hiccup that occurred. I got to believe that God is involved in it because he wants to see families stay together and he wants that man, the masculine part of the family, to get out there and get that cow and bring it back home. You
Fix his
gotta help a
mistake
man
and
keep working.
get back to work for sure.
Yes.
Now, and Charles, a lot of people talk about when it comes to the SAP program, they're paying thousands. And as we talked about earlier, some people are getting scammed out of thousands because
Yes.
they don't know the rules, they don't know the laws. Charles, how much do you charge and how long does it typically take for somebody to get to the return to duty process with you compared to some companies that might milk the driver, milk the person for all the
Yes.
money they got?
Yes. Yes. Well, with me, Focus 7, I'm a little bit different from other SAPs because I'm a certified alcohol drug counselor and I've been one for a long time. So I understand the addiction game and the drug game. I'm not just a bureaucrat, doing this type of stuff. So with the criteria that I know when just um, a drug awareness course and me having rapport and having a good talking with them, those two things will be suffice that would help them. And it does work. Everybody doesn't need to go to treatment. Everybody doesn't need to go to treatment. Certain people do, yes, but not everybody. Therefore, my SAP return to the process can take only 2 to 3 days. And they like that. you know,
I did.
employers like it and then drivers
I
like it.
I did. Yeah, I definitely liked it personally. I really loved it. Being able to get back and like I said before, I wish I would have known that it would be that easy.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
difference between you and other guys is what you're doing is 100% FMCSA regulated
yes,
legal. There's no
yes.
time limit to getting back to the
No,
RTD.
there's no
There's none.
time limit.
The
You don't have to,
follow-ups
yeah.
has the time, but not the return to
Yes,
duty.
yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. That's everybody. Did you hear that? Brad just cracked the code on that. That's how you do it. Now, uh, you could get back to work in 2 to 3 days if you go through my process, and I declare or with my judgment, clinical judgment, see that it was what's what I call a hiccup in life. However, the other steps, they're not under the SAP preview. You're going to have to go by federal regulations with the employer and the clearinghouse. So also, it's important that you're out of work when you got a SAP violation. You don't need to be price gouged. You know, you don't need to be charged thousands, and you really
Exactly.
should. And it's really frustrating for drivers to get that hidden cost where they pay a SAP fee and they find out they got to get transferred to another person to do the treatment, and they want them some Benjamins. Then they get to another person and they got to have theirs, and then a houseman still wants his cut, and this ain't Las Vegas. So look, it's important that a SAP prescribed the pricing up front. My pricing is very simple. It's a pricing strategy that pretty much a Walmart use. They call it the everyday low pricing, which is a thing. Look it up. is you just give the simple everyday low price, which is 411 using Cash App. If it's
Oh,
PayPal, it's 416. If it's a credit or debit card over the phone, Square charges $20, so it's 420. My SAP fee is $400, and it
I think
stays
that's
that way.
ironic that you're paying 420 to a SAP counselor. I just want to put that out there. I get the fee. You're just trying to cover the fees, but that's just a very that's just right on the cherry on top right there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so we don't really have a lot of time left, guys. But real quick, I just want to do a little bit of an early promo. Charles, you and I have been talking about something
yes,
this August. We
yeah,
want to help people and we want to get the information out. We haven't really set a date, and we haven't set a well, we've set a month, and it will be this August, but we haven't
yes,
set a name. And I want some recommendations down in the comments. But we're going to be starting a podcast together, just like this, but it'll be on Spotify, Apple, and any other iHeartRadio, any other podcast platform out there. We're working out some kinks, trying to get the audio and video figured out now as it is.
yeah,
Um, but Charles, explain what exactly are we going to be talking about in this podcast? Because I personally think it's going to be awesome, but I want you to tell the
yeah.
people what we're going to be going over.
Oh, it's important that drivers know more about possession. Did you know that possession of they finding drugs or alcohol in your vehicle is not a SAP violation? We're going to go into things like that, about bus drivers and driving for cities and municipalities.
Interesting.
Their situation. Yeah, the testing process with MROs and all this conflict of they made the cutoff just by 2 or 3 points and they get hit with a violation. They need
Uh
to know
huh.
that stuff,
And this
Uh,
November, the downgrading of the CDL.
yeah, yeah. And swabs now. They're going to swab you with a Q-tip type swab, just like a
Oof.
COVID testing, and find out immediately what you got in your
Mm-hmm.
system on site. So a
Charles,
lot of stuff.
it's going to be wild, man. I think we're going to have a great podcast. You guys, if you
Yeah,
want to hear more, you guys have to stay tuned. We're going to go into a lot, just anything and everything, and it's not just SAP and trucking;
yeah.
it's everything with this.
Everything. We're
Um,
going to go into some areas of recovery too. Me and
yep.
Brad is going to talk about areas where people really need it, about marijuana recovery
Hmm.
and the steps towards marijuana recovery. So, yeah, it's going to be
And
all encompassing.
everything. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait, and also helping prisoners, helping people that are getting out of
Yes,
jail,
reentry
and
programs.
helping
Yes.
them. I will be helping them because Charles can't do this part. I don't believe with this, but I will be helping them get jobs. Maybe we'll do live call-in shows and everything else. We want to get people back to work, but yeah, the reentry, it's going to be awesome. We got 15 seconds, Charles. What do you got to say?
Well, just give me a call. You got my number. Everybody know Mr. Charles, and go through Mr. Brad. He's pretty much a consultant at this point. He's got too much knowledge. If you can hit him and ask questions, he can refer them to me. Let's just get it done. Let's do it.
Let and that's all we got to say right there, man. It's still recording. We're still live on Zoom. I don't know how much time we have left, but I'm gonna keep on going just as an outro while
Yeah,
we have it. But guys, if you need a SAP counselor, give Charles Erby a call. I will have his
yeah,
link down below in the description, his phone number, and his YouTube, everything in the description, as well as here on the screen. And stay tuned. I will be putting more out about our podcast, and we will take. Charles, have you thought about any names for us, or like any suggestions for some names for our podcast?
I,
We're open.
I,
We're
the LA Lakers. I don't know.
well, we'll take anything at this point. Actually, no, I had two suggestions, but I'll probably put a poll out on YouTube. Put a poll out on YouTube and see what
Yeah.
people might
Okay.
might might think. I'll talk about TikTok. We'll see what we can get. And
Yeah.
we're gonna have a Google number for people to call in. We'll have a live call-in show, or even
Yeah.
coming on the video. I can recruit, even recruiters, companies. If you're
Yes.
trying to get a driver
Yes.
and you want to give a driver a second chance, let me know.
Yes.
Email me. My email will be down below. Let's get you guys connected. Let's get people back to work. You made a mistake. It's
We
time
made
to
a mistake.
let's.
Yeah.
We forgive you. The world will
We
forgive you.
forgive
Get your ass
you.
back to work.
Yeah, get back to work. That's what matters. We need you guys. Seriously, we need you guys. You're essential workers.
Yep.
You're not a mistake. You just made one. Contact me and Brad and watch our podcast. We can help you.
Watch. I will put out the exact date for our first episode. It's going to be a big one. We're going to make sure we fix all our little kinks here and there
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
But it's going to be a one of a kind podcast because it's not just trucking. It's not another trucking podcast. It's not political. This is a whole different ball game. And
yes,
it's I don't know of anybody else doing this. Um, that's really all I gotta say. But I will set a date. I will announce it, and I will
yes,
hope to see you all there. Some of our shows will be once a week. We might do a twice a week, depending on both of our
yeah,
times, but it will be on the same day, same time, once a week. And then we might have like a live show once a week too.
yes,
Him and I are still working things out, but it's gonna be
yes.
good. So
Yes, we're going to put up some guardrails and stuff so callers don't go, off
go
off the rails on us.
crazy.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
but
there's gonna be
we
those
we
people.
but we do want a live show. We want people to catch us live. Also, we want to bring in people from consortiums, owners of consortiums, and other agencies, and especially employers. Employers out there,
Yep.
get ready to call us. Put your earbuds in, you know, and have your questions for us because you're not getting any answers. And I can only help an employer one at a time. With a broadcast, I can help me and Brad can help everybody at one time.
Charles, I'm gonna ask a little question of the day, and I'm gonna try to get a question of the day for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stealing this from Mother Trucker, so Mother Trucker, sorry, but I think he has a
Yeah,
question
Mother
of the day all
Trucker.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I have a question for you all. Do you believe that companies don't hire SAP drivers due to their insurance? Because I have tried to
Good
look
question.
up
Good question.
insurance policies that have to do anything with SAP drivers, and I can't find nothing. Do you think that
Whoa.
companies are actually just saying this to not hire drivers, or can somebody email me some proof that there's a policy for SAP drivers? Let me
We
know.
want to hear about that.
I
Uh,
would
it-
love to
it-
know from a company owner out there.
yeah. Employers, we want to discuss your DAC reports, okay, and your higher rights
Oh,
report. Now we understand you do have the legal right to have a drug-free workplace and no tolerance policy, zero tolerance policy. However, we there's some great employers that are not excluding SAP drivers. Why don't you be one of those guys?